Ms. Esposito.
Good morning, members of Congress. Thank you very much for holding this hearing. My name is Adrienne Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. We're a bi-state organization with 6 offices throughout New York and Connecticut and 80,000 members. I'm going to just make 3 points. I don't want to be redundant. You've heard a lot. I think the point here is, what can you do? Well, thank you for asking. We do have some suggestions. The first thing we need to talk about is funding. As you may know, 2 federal laws allow there to be $65 million per year allocated to Long Island Sound restoration programs. The Stewardship Act allows up to $25 million, and the Long Island Sound Restoration Act allows up to $40 million. These aren't arbitrary numbers, but rather these numbers were identified from the need. What is the need to carry on those programs? Well, the need is $65 million per year. Ah, yes, but what have we received? Not that. In 2006, we were allocated $2.2 million. In 2007, $2.7 million. And in 2008, $5.5 million. We are receiving between 2 and 4% of the identified need. Some members of Congress recently in the U.S. Senate have said to me, Adrienne, why haven't we done better with restoring the sound? And I said, give us more, you'll get more. That's really the truth. But there's a bigger truth. And that is that the year-to-year way that funding is allocated acts as a roadblock to initiating some of the long-term projects that are needed to restore the sound. From year to year, we don't know how much money we're getting. Some years it was threatened we weren't getting any at all. And when you don't know if you're going to get between $2 million or $5 million or $6 million, it's hard to start programs and projects that'll take 4 and 5 years for the results to come in, if you don't know if you're going to have funding 4 or 5 years down the line. So we're asking Congress for 2 things. One is we need more money, but we also need for you to think differently about how you allocate money for our great water bodies. We need it in 3 to 5 years of increments, not year to year, because that has acted as a roadblock to the larger holistic programs that need to be implemented. The second thing I want to talk about is lobsters. Why, you may ask? Well, the reason is that every water body has that one species that identifies and characterizes the water body. And for that, and for Long Island Sound, that's lobsters. I'm sure Mr. Chris Molly will talk about that, being a lobsterman. But we want to say that the federal government, unfortunately, has been absent in the restoration of the lobster population, with the exception of funding that was provided in 1999 or the year 2000. Maine has a successful VNOC program. New York has nothing. Connecticut, to their credit, has worked to emulate Maine's VNOC program and to put some local characterization on it. Every year we battle in Connecticut to get the money for the VNOC program. It's in the budget. It's out the budget. It's in the budget. It's not an expensive program. $300,000, $400,000 per year is needed for 3 consecutive years. New York does not have this program. We can't VNOC half the lobsters that are on the Connecticut side and do nothing on the New York side. It doesn't work that way. I hope you'll agree with me when we say lobsters move, and they don't pay attention to the political boundaries. We need one VNOC program that allow for the females to be thrown back into the water for 3 consecutive years so we can build up our lobster population. In the heyday, it was $40 million of resources. We believe this would not be an expenditure of funds, but rather an investment of funds from our federal government. Last thing I just want to mention that no one mentioned yet is we also, one thing the federal government can do is to have a large-scale, cohesive, comprehensive, bi-state public education campaign. It's not just the government's responsibility to care for and protect the Long Island Sound. We have a job too. The public needs to be enlisted. And yet, they have not been so. Let me just tell you, the Long Island Sound study released a public perception survey back in 2006. It's not very good news. What the results found, that 90% of residents agree that humans severely are abusing our environment. But yet, only 70% of the residents felt that they did anything that abused the environment. They did nothing. So 70% felt that it wasn't their fault, it was the other people's fault. They also found that there wasn't anything that they could do to improve the quality of water in Long Island Sound, but their neighbors could do things that would improve the water. So we're getting it a little bit as members of the public, but the public is not really engaged in how they can help and how that their actions are meaningful in protection of the water body. So whether it's not using fertilizers, not using unnecessary pesticides, disposing of waste, whether it's cigarette butts or the ubiquitous plastic bag, these are all things that people can be doing to enlist in protection of the sound, and yet the message is not getting through. Westchester County has done some good educational components, and so has many of the nonprofit sector, but really we need some federal leadership in this area as well. Other great water bodies have this. The Chesapeake has unified messaging. We do not have that for the Long Island Sound. So if I had to choose three things, I would say to you we need consistent funding for 3 to 5 year intervals. We need a VNOTCH program that is sponsored by the federal government, which helps our lobstermen and our lobster populations. And we need to engage and enlist the behavior of the public to change and become stewards of the water body. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you very much.